So I'm recording this from Salem, Massachusetts, just after a month-long bit of work with our month-long Halloween. Halloween in Salem is from October 1st to 31st. But I wanted to make some statements about the Rugby World Cup and the Welsh and the English teams and how I think this relates to the issue of Welsh independence. There's some things that occurred in statements by the press, by activities both of some of the Welsh players and the English players that I think speak to the growing interest in Wales for independence from Great Britain. So, dwi'n mynd I deud rhywbeth amdano fo. I'm gonna say something about it. So here's what occurred. As most of you know, Wales placed fourth in the Rugby World Cup and England placed second. England made it into the finals after beating New Zealand, and that was a rather amazing game in which England dominated New Zealand, the #1 team in the world, significantly. And Wales played South Africa for the right to make it into the finals, but lost narrowly on a penalty kick in the last few minutes for a 16-19 game, South Africa to win. Then when it came a week later and it was the finals, an interesting inversion of the previous week occurred. Wales was dominated by New Zealand, and similarly, England was just slaughtered by South Africa. In the response to that, a number of the pundits for England made comments about it not being the same South Africa team that showed up to play England that played Wales, that somehow it was a different team. Which, come on now, we know that that's not true. It was the same team. This is a matter of matchups, and South Africa matched up better against England than they did against Wales, and New Zealand matched up better against Wales than they did against England, and so we had these results as they were. In the lead up to that, a number of the same pundits were surprised that the Welsh were not supporting the English team. And Jamie Roberts made a comment, as one of the players for the Welsh national rugby team made the comment that he wouldn't be able to support England, and it had to do with his Welsh nationalism and his sense of pride in his own country. And so there's something to be said about this very thing. On one hand, there's been somewhat of a putting down of the Welsh, as though they don't really match up to the English, despite the fact that they won the Six Nations and beat England coming into the preliminary matches up to the World Cup. But somehow they really don't match up. They're not quite as good as the English team, or at least that's what the pundits from England were saying. And yet we have some evidence here that the Welsh can match up equally to the English in the World Cup setting. Why would this kind of thing even be said? Why would there be such a diminution of the team, looking down on them in this way? Well, it's felt by the Welsh that that's a standard response that the English have toward Wales as a whole, that somehow they're second tier not only in rugby, but they're second-rate citizens. The Welsh feel that way in Westminster, where their votes oftentimes mean nearly nothing. And so the rise of Welsh nationalism has been significant just in this last year. It's grown leaps and bounds. I was marching with 10,000 people in Carnarvon as evidence of that. When Jamie Roberts made the statement that he couldn't support England, I understand, as somebody, the Welsh-loving Californian that I am, I understand this completely, because as I would look at it, if England can support Wales in political ways that are meaningful, and as I might say it, if you can't support them as much as you support yourselves, if you can't love them as much as you love yourselves, then how can you expect a reciprocal support? There's no wonder that not supporting a team would occur when not supporting of life in Wales has felt like an ongoing thing. There's not only a history of ancient oppression, as we might call it, hundreds and hundreds of years back in the oppression of the English upon the Welsh, but today it seems that oftentimes England thinks of itself and considers Wales as second-class citizens, or that's how it's felt in Wales. And so the support of sports teams for one another in neighboring countries is, I think, indicative of the interest and the rise in Welsh nationalism. So this is the Welsh-loving Californian, Phil Wyman. Check it out. Diolch yn fawr iawn. Thank you for checking in on this website. God bless.